In Amazon, we have leadership principles.
Leadership principles.
The most important leadership principle.
First leadership principle is
Customer obsession.
Customer obsession.
customer obsession.
Customer obsession.
We are a customer-obsessed company.
Ultimately, we want our customers to succeed.
We want our customers to succeed with us.
Customers do better, we do better.
We believe a happy customer is a long-term customer.
If the customers succeed, they're going to find ways to consume more and more services.
Eliminating infrastructural waste, customers will be able to grow their business.
We drive down prices on bandwidth, storage, instances.
We believe the reason behind AWS's creation was to provide that elasticity and cloud value.
If we do what is in the best interest of our customers, period, the rest of it will work itself out.
Customers trust us. They know we are here to help.
I really love that emphasis on customer trust, because it's more than a vendor. It's a utility that we need to be able to count on for the infinite horizon future. That trust is critical.
Hello and welcome to the fourth and final day of reInvent here from Las Vegas. We have an absolutely amazing panel here to talk about everything that happened this amazing week. Why don't we go around the panel here? I was going to say go around the table. We have such an amazing panel. We don't have any tables, but we have lots of chairs. Jeff, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Jeff Barr, VP and Chief Evangelist for AWS. Excited to be here. This is my 12th reInvent, believe it or not.
Absolutely, and you need no introduction to the entire audience over here. But thank you so much for coming. Yuri.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Yuri Prikodko. I'm Principal Technical Account Manager in AWS Enterprise Support, also leading Cloud Intelligence Dashboards project within AWS.
Amazing. Lorenzo?
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Lorenzo Winfrey. I'm a Senior VD for Flexible Compute for US Eastern Canada. So this is my very first reInvent, so super excited to be here.
All right, I'm Stephen Barr, and together with Rahul, we co-host this AWS Made Easy live stream. We're so lucky that we've had Jeff, Yuri, Lorenzo, and Rick, and welcome legends the first time on the show. We're here to cover AWS, to cover reInvent, and just to deliver you, our audience, the best summaries, the best wrap-up that we can. And we're so glad to have everyone. I can't believe we have everyone in the room together, so thank you all for your time. Rick.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rick Ochs. I lead product management at AWS for our optimization tooling.
Hello, my name is Latien Fung. I'm a principal product manager working on cost management and optimizations. This is my 6th week now.
Fantastic.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to start with Jeff over here. Jeff, this was absolutely amazing. I think we've come back to this larger reInvent after quite a while. I think after the pandemic, last year was the first one where we had, a good attendance, and then this one was even bigger. What's your experience been this particular time, and how do you contrast it with, say, the first and the last big one we did?
All right, so the first one stands out in my mind because it was the first, and I still remember walking into the keynote room for the very first keynote when Andy was going to keynote.
Right.
And before walking into that room, I knew that AWS was succeeding. Like we always say, up and to the right. We want to see all the metrics up and to the right at AWS. I knew that they were going up and to the right. I could see that we're building new things. I could see that more people are coming onto the teams, which was great. But walking into that first keynote room with knowing that we had all these launches queued up and that I saw 6,000 chairs set up, it was this very stark transition for me from kind of feeling like it succeeds to, wow, all these people are here and they're here to hear about us. And I found a seat kind of toward the back of the room. I sat down thinking that I was going to do all my launches from the laptop for all the blog posts. Quickly realized that people could see my screen from behind me, and I'm like, oh, we didn't have this part planned out. Now we have an entire launch team. We have everything just down to the minute. But the scale is amazing. But even though I know people come here for the launches, but the connections, the personal connection that we get to make, to hear from people that have somehow benefited from things that we've done, that I've done, that is what I find so valuable about the in-person part of reInvent.
Couldn't agree more. I have one follow-up on that. So I've, through all these years of working with AWS and being at reInvent, I know of all the things that I took away and have been awesome. But I've always been curious, from AWS's standpoint, what do you guys think of as a successful reInvent for each attendee? Like, how do you decide that, or how do you benchmark a successful reInvent?
Okay, so I think it goes back to what our intro video, the customer obsession. This is all about keeping our customers informed and happy, and that they were able to learn to meet each other, to have an enjoyable, pleasant experience through the whole week, and to go back and say, okay, I met some new people, I maybe picked up a new skill, I saw a launch of some awesome new service that can help our business to be better and faster and cheaper. I think all of those are things that we care a lot about.
And I think this time you guys absolutely kind of nailed it. I think I have got stuck in human traffic jams numerous times. Yet, when you run into people that you met multiple times, and then everyone gets together, they have discussions right where you're walking down the corridor. It's been absolutely amazing.
That's great to hear.
Lorenzo, this is your first reInvent. What was your experience?
It's just been a pleasure. It's been so great. I had the opportunity to lead a breakout session on Monday, talking about capacity, availability, cost. Like, how do we optimize for all three of those things to get an optimal result? And just before I came up here, a customer walked up to me and said, "Hey, you gave that session, right?" And just talked about how much value they gained from it and how helpful it was. And we connected and said, "Hey, we're going to dive deeper on that a little bit later." So it's just been a great experience.
Got it. Was it similar to what you had anticipated or expected, or was it a whole other level of, oh wow, I don't know what this was?
Definitely a whole other level of like, oh wow, right? Just the scale, the number of people, all the great announcements, the amount of just sheer content. If you've never been here, never been to reInvent, I've gotta highly recommend that you work on making it. It's just amazing, an amazing experience. The opportunity to meet not just customers, but the opportunity to connect customers and to just be able to facilitate a lot of that is just so exciting.
I couldn't agree more. Yuri, this is
my second.
your second one.
Yes, and last year it was my first one. This year I'm similar to Lorenzo. I'm so excited. I had a breakout session and also had a chance to lead a workshop. And for me, reInvent, it's about inspiration. I think for customers, it's inspiration from launches, from connections, from all the networking, like learning from each other. For me, it's about also sharing ideas with customers and learning from customers, because there is so much energy coming from customers who actually wants to share their use case. That's something which they build and they want to kind of validate the idea. And it's so much nice to all these meetings and all these discussions. It's so much fun and so inspiring to just get back home and work even more like helping customers to solve their challenges.
I couldn't agree more. I think the energy that you get from the audience over there and just walking down the corridor or the expo hall is absolutely amazing. Rick?
Yeah, so I think this is my fourth. I did two of them as an ISV when I was with Turbonomic and all the right sizing there and that capability. And it was a lot of fun because we just have an incredible number of customer meetings in a short period of time. So it's just nonstop customer meetings. Now, as an AWS employee, spending like some more deep one-on-one time with customers to hear their use cases and celebrate how they're using AWS to solve their problems and challenges. And not only that, but how can we help? How can we engage? What tools or capabilities do they need to continue to do, cost optimization, right sizing, cost visibility, these sorts of solutions? Because it's a lot of fun launching free products that help our customers save money and use the cloud elastically, right? So that experience is powerful because the excitement they get, that our customers get when we engage and talk about free, new, cool things we're building, we get to share that our customer obsession is front and center with how we build products, right? And here's the proof, here's the launches, here's the capability. Like new look back period for free and things, I'm sure we'll talk more about it later, but that excitement around, hey, we want to help you use AWS efficiently and effectively in all of your products and tools, right?
I couldn't agree more. Question?
Yeah, I would definitely plus one. And like when I was doing like the breakout sessions year over year, my biggest excitement is like after each session you get surrounded by so many customers, right? And sometimes I have to spend like 30 or 45 minutes just to talk to them one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it's really good to have testimony that we are really working on stuff that a lot of customers care about.
I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the reasons why we decided to put that video right up front is there are still a lot of customers who come in with disbelief that it is in AWS's DNA to actually do this, to help customers be more efficient, to actually make sure that they're operating as efficiently as possible, because it seems very counterintuitive to them, especially the folks who are very new to this AWS ecosystem. It's pretty amazing that that's the case, and it's been there for as long as I have worked with AWS, which is 16 plus years at this point. Stephen, what has your experience been covering AWS as an evangelist on the other side of the fence?
It's been a blast. It's like you said, it's so inspiring to see what it actually offers, and having been around AWS for such a long time and seeing the services get launched and services mature, it's been so fun just watching that whole process and now being able to be in the middle of it, in the thick of it, and helping folks save on their cloud bill, right? So that way they can keep people in their jobs, so they can build new products, so they can free up budget for generative AI, which is so cool. It's really, I love being here.
I completely agree with that. I actually thought that you were going to talk about the absolute fire hose of announcements that you've been trying to keep up with over the last 4 days.
Sorry, not
And
sorry.
no, but it's
a good
amazing. I think with every reinvent, the scale of the set of services, the set of features just grows so incrementally that as prepared as we think that we are going to be to try and tackle all of this, we've been up at like 4 and 4:30 a.m. every morning trying to figure out, trying to keep up with everything that's going on and try and bring you all the announcements and all the summaries at 6 a.m. every morning. But it doesn't ever seem enough. I think we're going to need the next few months to be able to digest all of this and be able to get you, more in-depth analysis of all of this.
Well, not alone. Like personally, I have not even read every last blog post that we published. I wrote 25 getting ready for reInvent. So that's the things we launched ahead of reInvent, and then the things that we launched this past week. I did my best to review the content that my colleagues on the news blog team created, but I got probably at least one draft of each got reviewed. But we also have the launches that didn't quite get a blog post, the ones that are just a what's new entry. Yeah. Many of those are, we label them internally, we call them tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. But a lot of those tier 2 and tier 3s are actually really important features that I need to go back and make sure that if something got kind of lost in the flood, that I identify it and call it out sometime next month.
So for customers who come in over here and they're just trying to kind of learn and absorb as much as possible, it generally ends up being extraordinarily overwhelming, especially for a newbie, right? So someone who's coming in absolutely for the first time on this side of the thing, I think one of the things that they are tempted to do is try and attend as many sessions as possible, trying to cover as many of the things that seem interesting to them. What is each one of your advice to newbies coming into reInvent? Like, I imagine next year's reInvent might be as big or bigger, and there are going to be more services, because even if every service has 10% new features, like it's an exponentially growing set of features. What's each one of your advice to a newbie there? Shall we start from that?
Well, I think my biggest advice is like come up with a plan on like what are the must-see sessions that you want to go to, and then try to thread like the impromptu stuffs around it, so that you can actually like get the most of all the sessions and still get immersed to like the latest launches that, for example, like some launches that get announced on the stage, and then there will be a new session pop up, right? So like leave some like spaces so that you can get fully immersed into the new launch.
I would say avoid the shuttles. Because, so if you get stuck at Wynn and you need to go to Mandalay Bay, and there's a lot of people going to Mandalay Bay for a certain session or something like that, that travel time, you're going to miss multiple sessions. So I would just say, like, plan your day out by location, and find your marquee 1 or 2 sessions in a specific location, and then find other sessions. And then also note that breakouts are recorded. You can catch them later. Don't try to catch everything, right? It is a fire hose. So catch the things that are strategic for you and your job and what you're trying to do. And then, like Ledian said, leave some room, because the relationships and the impromptu conversations are a huge part of the value.
Well, okay, I tried one. I'm not sure if it worked, but last year there was a long time delay before we could actually watch the keynotes. But today I noticed they were there same day, or a few days ago I noticed they were same day. And so if you don't have time to watch it that day, but you still want to be fresh in the announcements, on YouTube you can watch it twice as fast, and so it saves an hour. So that saved me like 3 hours this week, which I really needed.
So your brain has a turbo button. Mine doesn't, but
my wife can do it at 3x. That sounds like gibberish to me. At 2x, if I'm really focused, I can hear it.
Lorenzo?
I agree with the point in terms of like having a strategy on the locations. It's a lot of distance to cover. And so I think taking a strategy of saying, what sessions are happening in a particular location on a particular day and kind of building the schedule that way, I think can be really helpful. Of course, bring comfortable shoes. There's a lot of walking involved, right? And going around. So you want to be comfortable in doing that. But I think picking out a physical location, the locations are huge. This was my first time in Vegas as well, so I didn't understand quite the scale. So the locations are huge, tons of sessions in each location. So pick a day, go to the sessions in that location. Next day, go to the events in that one, and I think that kind of helps to kind of balance it out.
Yeah, pick comfortable shoes is like very important advice. Yeah, I would say like breakout sessions are being recorded, yes, so like you can watch them afterwards. I would prioritize, I would suggest, focus on a couple of topics which you want to learn about, and find the workshops which are usually like 2-hour session where you get the AWS account or a couple of accounts where you can build stuff and you can break stuff without worrying that you can impact your production. So you can actually learn. I think, at least for me, it's like my builder nature speaks here. So I usually want to dive deeper into topic and see how it works in detail, in depth. So you can even deviate from workshop agenda, or other sessions types like Chuck Talks, when again there is usually like very focused topic where it's a session with whiteboarding where you can ask a lot of questions. So those sessions are not recorded. So it's if you're not there, you're really missing them. You cannot repeat them. While breakout sessions you can watch afterwards, you can get back to them, watch the
2x really helps.
So, or I don't know, transcribe it and read it, or ask Gen AI engine to make you summary. So yeah, I would say I would suggest focus on workshops, hands-on, labs and all things like that.
I like what Yuri said. Kind of focus on the things that you can do here that you can't always do when you're back at home. Also leave a lot of room for serendipity, and that go maybe in addition to checking out the things that are obvious, go and just spend some time in the session of something that you know nothing about, and just say, oh, this might be surprisingly interesting to me in a way that I didn't know. Leave a lot of time just to connect. And again, the scale of Vegas, as you said, I still remember people would look at the map and say, okay, I'm in this hotel. The other one is right next door. I'll just walk over, and not realizing that the scale of Vegas means that could be 35 or 40 minutes worth of walking. And so sometimes an optimization that says stay within a single hotel might be the best way to get the best value from being here. As far as the sessions, going to sessions for the content, but also to say, I'm going to be there because I'm going to meet other people that are using the same service or solving the same problems, and maybe get an opportunity to meet the product manager, the program manager for that service, to maybe make that little bit of a personal connection. I think that's super, super valuable, and a thing that you can do more easily here than you can do online.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. That last part, so what I have learned over the years is the one thing that you absolutely cannot replicate is the amazing folks from AWS, as well as the other customers who are using AWS services, all being present in one place. And the kind of access that you get to everybody is absolutely amazing. I mean, everyone at AWS goes out of their way to be available, to have those conversations, even after, like you guys said, even after every session, there's about 40 minutes of conversations that happen after the session. And some of those conversations are even more valuable than actually what is presented over there, because people come up with their nuanced, questions about, something that's not generic, that applies to everybody. And to be able to get an answer to that, and the kind of access and the, amazing networks that you can build by being here in person, I'd say spend 90% of your time on, just making sure that you're leveraging the most out of that. And of course, my first reInvent, I made the mistake of wearing formal shoes, thinking I was going to be in a lot of customer meetings. I'm never repeating that mistake again. So good shoes is absolutely lesson number one.
Good shoes and good hydration as well.
Absolutely.
It's very dry here.
Were those customers impressed by the shiny shoes?
I don't think you looked at the shoes. But yeah, hydration. Yeah, you don't realize how dry this place is. This time when I came in, the first night I couldn't even sleep because I'm coming from a tropical, humid climate, and my nose hurt, and it was almost bleeding. But yeah, once you get used to that, it's absolutely amazing. So spend your time working, talking to people, getting as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. And I'd also say, like, enjoy the social events, enjoy the parties.
Yes.
And the parties are, yes, it's called party, but it really is a networking event where you can meet other people doing interesting things that you might or might not immediately care about, but might be things that you should take note of. And just even just the general trend of, like, what are people talking about that I didn't know that they would necessarily care about is worth noting.
Like, meet new people, just meet someone new, try to learn what others do.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, so now we're going to jump right into the core content of reInvent. So two themes kind of, I think, for me stood out. The first one, of course, being generative AI, where everyone's trying to kind of, get into all the new LLM related stuff. The second one was cost. And compared to last year, where I was actually anticipating that there'd be a lot of announcements and a lot of focus around efficiency and cost optimization. This time, you guys hit it out of the park with so many amazing announcements and so many amazing tools to help customers be more efficient. So why don't we go around, talking about what you guys took away and in terms of the themes? Is there some other theme that we missed in the overarching, content that was shared over here? Thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, to me, one of the things that I pick up on is we really want to make sure that customers are on a lot of different stages of their cloud adoption journey. And we all want to say, okay, let's go to the sci-fi Gen AI serverless future. People will get there at some point, but there's a lot of steps in between. And like one of the launches I worked on was for CloudWatch, where you can bring data into CloudWatch from your on-premises or from your hybrid environments or from running on other clouds.
Right.
You, instead of actually copying the data into CloudWatch, you can simply deploy this connector, and the connector is just a CloudFormation template and a really cool little Lambda function that every time CloudWatch needs the particular metric represented by the connector, it just calls the Lambda function. It says, give me the metric from this point to this point.
Right. And
super easy way to, if customers want to bring in metrics from other places and then put them on the same dashboard and say, okay, my on-premises whatever had this little bump in utilization here, and I can actually see that on the timeline of my cloud infrastructure as well.
Right.
So I think that the meeting them there, I wrote several posts for the NetApp. No, it's Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP.
Right.
Very, very long name. but that's and a lot of customers run that on premises, and apparently it's pretty complicated to set up. It's like need lots of hardware and lots of software and lots of configs.
Got it.
But you can now launch one of those in AWS really quickly. That's not the new part, but there's a lot of just additional facilities there to help customers to make great use of that. And
Got it.
I actually heard that in addition to people bringing their existing NetApp loads or NetApp ONTAP loads onto the cloud, they're launching new ones. And so we're actually getting new customers. It's not just migration. It's customers that might look at that and say, this is so complicated to set up. I don't have the right set of skills. I don't have the hardware. Go to the console, click a button, and you're up with this incredibly cool scalable file system.
Oh, that's really awesome. Yuri?
Yeah, for me, very similar. I'm excited to see all the zero ETL, announcements, because that actually pretty same what Jeff is talking about. That it's about helping customers with no need to provision any their own lambdas, own code to move data between the services. It's just the zero ETL integrations. It's just very easy, but also it has zero maintenance, right? So you do not need to maintain runtimes of data updates and security patches and stuff like that. So I was really excited about that, and also what resonates to me a lot is the emphasis on the sustainability, emphasis on the cost optimization. In Werner's keynote today, it was pretty big chunk of, a pretty big part dedicated to this topic. That look, now many customers used to focus on like growth, on like scale. Now customers want to understand how to relate it to their business goals and how to relate it to their revenue, and now customers get into a point that cost is just another metric, right, in the cloud, which you need to learn how to monitor, how to track, how you can optimize. We all learned for years from like how to monitor performance or how to monitor availability of our applications. Now customers getting into a point how to now monitor cost of our applications as just another metric, And I see a lot of discussions with customers who actually, like, for them it becomes pretty like the most priority. Interesting. Also fact that this year, based on Flexera report, the managing cloud spend has overtaken security as one of the top challenges which organizations face across the board. So it's very interesting to see how it all, how industry is moving towards this cost awareness.
Well, it was neat seeing that addressed in the keynote this morning. Of right, this is the cost should be right next to security in terms of non-functional requirements, and seeing that right up on Werner's keynote. That was really neat.
Just somebody gave me a sticker. Her name was Merritt, and she gave me a sticker, and it said, if security is job 0, then FinOps is job 0.5. Yes.
So she's been trying to get those stickers out to everybody.
Oh, wow. Okay, great job, Merritt.
So because she used that tagline in the Finops Foundation, and then they put it in the Finops Foundation official documentation, right? And so she came to reInvent with all the stickers handing out because she's trying to reclaim that statement, because security is imperative and it must go as part of the process of the engineering efforts for all new applications. So yeah, definitely call out to Merritt. It's fun seeing all the FinOps experts kind of come out and really seeing the community of FinOps come together like that has been fun. Merritt's a huge role in that community.
Since you're talking about FinOps, Rick, a question for you. You've been instrumental in making sure that AWS is now a part of the FinOps Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that journey and AWS's perspective about getting into that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the FinOps Foundation is a wonderful organization that works very hard to put pen to paper on the best practices of how to manage a cloud cost. And that's something we care deeply about. Our customers are in the foundation. Our customers were giving us feedback that, hey, we'd like to see you here. We'd love to engage with you on these topics and conversations to make sure that our voice is being heard. And we worked internally and we validated the effort it took for us to join an open source foundation and contribute and get through all the legal reviews and everything. And it has been tremendous. We announced 4 weeks ago, I think, that we joined the foundation. In those 4 weeks, gosh, this week, just at reInvent, we had 2 major FinOps Foundation events on Tuesday. One where we had all of the product managers from our cost management tools sitting there at different tables, and then the different FinOps practitioners could come and ask very specific pointed questions like, hey, I'm doing anomaly detection. I'm seeing this happen. How do I handle it, right? And the product managers are directly interfacing with our most advanced users, right, that know the nitty-gritty details of how to do things like budgets, alerts, showback, chargeback, anomaly detection, right sizing, right? And so to have this community that we can engage with where the customers see that we're here to listen, we're here to share our vision, our mission, our tools, our capabilities, and this community allows us to not just share those best practices that we feel are awesome ways to succeed with FinOps, but that they can talk amongst themselves and say, hey, this is how I've done it, right? This is our best practice for chargeback or showback. These are the tools we use and things like that. And that community experience adds just a tremendous amount of value for us as product managers as we build features, and also for the community. We want them to know that we care, we're listening, we're there, we're engaged, right? So that was like the big driver and the push for us, where we're like, we got to get there. And we got it done. We're there. We really wanted to get it done before reInvent. We wanted to do sessions at reInvent with the foundation. We wanted to do road shows and meet and greets and all that stuff. And so the timing was critical for us. And we also got representatives on the governing board. So John Phillips is on the governing board of the Finops Foundation. We have TAC representative. I'm on the TAC. We have Roy Woolman, a product manager that he leads our product management for Kerr and Cost Explorer, which everybody cares about.
Right.
He is on the steering committee for Focus, which is a big investment area for us coming up, and we're excited about that. And so we're there, we're engaged.
Awesome. Now, I've actually seen the big change, also being on the Finops side of things, the engagement of the community over here at reInvent has gone up a huge, big level compared to last year and looking at it today. I think when I walked into the event that you were talking about where all the product managers were there, it was amazing to see every table being full. It was like, just to say hi to you, I think it took me about 10 minutes because I couldn't kind of make my way through the crowd, but it was amazing to see the entire community interact with everyone over there and ask questions. Like, I think one of the things that there was a little bit of a disconnect was that a lot of members of the community didn't feel like they didn't know where to ask these questions. They didn't know who to approach. And I think this forum became really amazing because a lot of newbies in Finops, and in fact, for everyone else, Finops is, 3 years old at this point. So it's still in its infancy. In the grand scheme of things, people are still discovering how to be efficient in the cloud, and everyone is learning. So, given that, a lot of people felt like they didn't have a forum or a place to go ask AWS-specific questions and get better at things. So having AWS join the Finops Foundation has been huge. And I know from the inside of the Finops Foundation, we couldn't be more happy that AWS came in and joined the foundation. So thank you for that. And Rick, specifically you, I know you did a lot of work behind the scenes to actually make that happen. So thank you personally for making that happen. Great. So back to the content part of it. Let's talk about, I know we're going to be talking a lot about the cost optimization and all of that stuff. Jeff, from the overall picture, how are themes determined for a reInvent, keynote and presentation?
So most of that doesn't, I'm not in most of those loops, but from what I've seen in the past, it's actually bottom up in that I don't think we pick a theme and we say, let's invent a bunch of products to actually fill out that theme.
Okay.
We've been working in our customer obsessed way to build new things for our customers. And then early in the year, as we start to we're pretty clear on what's going to be ready for launching. And we start to think about what are the contents of the keynote. From there, you kind of go effectively bottom up and say, okay, we've got all these things that should be launching. Let's start to put those in a collection and start to develop the theme from there, rather than say, okay, here's a couple themes, let's see what fits into them. It's kind of like how do all these pieces tend to want to form into some natural groups? And then there's of course a lot of discussion back and forth of what makes for a good keynote and which keynotes might it fit into. Another challenge is actually dependencies from launch to launch, and that we have to make sure that something that launches on Monday isn't actually functionally dependent on something that launches on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. That affects us all in really interesting ways of just making sure, like within blog posts, for example, we never, ever link from post to post for launches because they could change the order of launches at any time. And we just don't want to take that as a dependency. So you'll see that blog posts are silos as far as we can possibly make them.
But in another sense, could you load this all up into Neptune, put it into a Neptune graph, and then query the? Well, as of today, you could.
You're overestimating how sophisticated our process would be. But yes, we absolutely could. The safest thing to do. So what we actually want to make sure is that when we launch content from the blog, there are no dependencies, not just on services, but even on other parts of AWS. There are times in the past when we were pushing massive amounts of new documentation and new detail pages for the services and marketing pages. There's a bit of a publishing pipeline there, and we within the blog, we don't want to wait for any of that. We want to make sure at the point when any of the keynote speakers says the new AWS XYZ is here, we're all set up within the launch team. We hit the publish. We don't have to wait for anything else to actually get at the door, go through pipelines or anything. Just publish it. It's there. And I think the customers really love the fact that the content pops up so quickly and that the content actually matches the thing that was announced from the keynote stage. That doesn't happen automatically. It takes a lot of work, a lot of attention to detail.
I can quite imagine. How does it work on the application side as you guys are working on features, and as the features being announced during the keynote, you have to make sure that at that point it's available? Is it?
Yeah, so right before the reInvent, we actually have like a launch call training, which essentially like have a dry run on what's going to happen at what point in time, and then we actually have a rehearsal, and then we will need to time unveiling the feature, like moving the feature flag, on top of the feature flag at the particular moment. Yeah.
But I would imagine the feature flag also has to scale, because when you say something is announced, it's not, one instance, one feature flag, deploy. The deployment basically has to affect everything in one shot. How does that work?
Yeah, that's just engineering magic.
It is.
That's a good answer.
Well, there's also like the pilot, because like Jeff was saying, we launched the product description page and then the blog post and then the what's new post, right? Because the what's new post might link to the blog, right? And so we stage all of that and we practice it and we get it right, because we have like a specific minute when we have to launch it. And so we have to rehearse it. And then the engineers stay up late at night rehearsing it and getting it ready. So they turn off the feature flag and then we launch the blog post as soon as we possibly can right after. And so it is this staged pipeline, and nobody gets any sleep for like at least 2 weeks before it happens. And then hopefully everybody can sleep the week after reInvent.
That's definitely the plan.
A follow-up question. How far before reInvent do you really start planning out everything that's going to be announced and launched during reInvent?
The day after.
At least the Monday.
It's very similar to what Jeff said, that I think like the teams are working what matters to customers, and then it could be some features could be worked out like 6 months before, some features, as Rick said, day after like it's all end up this bundle of releases and announcements to reInvent. It depends on every service team. For example, from my side, I was involved into release of costing usage dashboards. So one of our cloud intelligence dashboards, which have been as a solution for quite a while. So one of them, it's inspired by one of them. Service team makes for customer available in AWS console directly to be deployed. So instead of running CloudFormation templates, they can, in a couple of clicks, provision from the console. And we've been working with a service team, I can tell you, like for quite a while. So it's like literally the work on that feature and all the reviews and all the assessment happened way even before previous reInvent, to make sure that like how it's going to look like, what all the possible features, and so the shape of this happens way before. But we constantly listen for the feedback and other things. But generally, it depends on its feature and service.
Now, what you guys actually put out is really impressive. The coordination, hundreds of features. I mean, we were, like we said earlier, just struggling to keep up with all the announcements and just even exploring, like launching the page, exploring the page to see all the content and not even being able to dive deep into the details. It's staggering and absolutely amazing.
One of the phrases you often hear us say, and I know Andy Jassy said this, but it actually originated with one of our colleagues named Jacob Levinon. He often said that there's no compression algorithm for experience. But what that really means is the only reason we can do what we're doing now is because we did the predecessor and the predecessor to that, all the way back to it being very, very simple. And you have to gain this experience. Say, okay, we did it the first time. This was good. Now we can automate some. We can make other parts better and add more checklists and more steps. But you have to actually kind of recap all of that evolution before you actually know how to do it. No matter how smart you are, no matter how many resources you have, you probably couldn't just replicate all of this from scratch. You have to have actually
gone through the experience,
been through the experience to have the scars and know what's good and what's bad, and just iterate. That iteration is such an important part of what we have to do.
Makes total sense. I'm now going to go around, asking each one of you to pick a feature or an announcement that you are most excited about that is not from your own teams. So from the entire set of announcements, I don't know whether you guys have had the chance to look at everything else, because I can imagine tons of sleepless nights, not even being laser focused on delivering what you need to do. But have you had a chance to look at any of the other announcements? Is there anything that excites you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that excites me is like our continued expansion into serverless products. Like, so for example, we launched like Elastic Cache serverless. Like, it really means that, like, as a developer, I don't really need to think about scaling or other things. I can just write my application, like connect to the instance, and AWS does all these kind of hard work of scalings for me, right? And like the biggest value proposition of cloud is the elasticity, right? And it's really great, like the AWS just handles for you. I think that's really excites me.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna still pick one in the cost management space. It's not the optimization launches, though. Like, we're really proud of this. No, Kerr 2.0 has this little part of it that might have slipped under the radar. I actually shared this with a couple other folks as well. But with Kerr 2.0, you can now pick the columns that you want to export as part of Kerr, and account name is now in your Kerr data.
Absolutely.
Now have account name. And we've been wanting to do this for a long time, but when you make changes to Kerr, you got to be careful, right? Because everybody uses. There's so many products and tools built on top of the Kerr and customers, so we have to be very careful when we work with the Kerr. And the framework and the export capability now allows us to do more changes and add more data, and be a little bit more free with investing new data concepts and exports and all that sort of stuff. And account name has been one of the most difficult.
I know it's been there.
Data, because you have to merge it with something else, because you have the account number, the GUID, but you don't have the name. And actually, I did hear a customer yesterday say that she had a bunch of her account names memorized. I felt bad. I was like, no, friendly names, please, friendly names. But getting that friendly name into the data set allows you to much more easily determine, okay, this account is for prod, this one's for non-prod, this one's for application A or B. And now you can kind of much more easily consume your costs and usage data with those friendly names. So
I can tell you from the other side that request has been out for at least 4 or 5 years now. Yeah. So it's a big deal. Okay. Stephen, do you want to pick one?
Well, I guess this is one that I commented on this morning. We were looking at, and maybe you can answer this one. We can generate SQL queries with Gen AI now. Does that include Kerr queries?
In which one?
Well,
that is for Redshift.
That was for Redshift, but
now
I guess will we in the future be able to type in an idea of what we want out of the Kerr and then use Gen AI to then query the Kerr? Because that was for Redshift, that was just announced, of generative AI-based Kerr queries. And so that would be a neat progression.
I would say what customers probably would want to do is not to generate query, but generate an answer, So because why they need queries to get an answer to their question, why my spend is growing, what is the most expensive resource, what can I optimize? So I would see the more value in Gen AI, overall, going forward is, or the stage where it goes, is to provide the ability to answer this kind of questions, more related to what customers really need. The query is just an instrument. So
yes, I guess it's like an intermediary.
Just working on the helping service team to launch this custom usage dashboard. We needed to prepare some demo data for the demo, and I actually end up with having basically some chunks of demo data in CSV, but to integrate it with QuickSight, I needed to have headers in every file, and I had headers, I didn't have headers, I just had the right CSV structure. So I just used Bedrock and asked, hey, how to add headers in bunch of files located on S3, and literally I needed to tweak a couple of lines of code, and it took me this task took me literally 15 minutes, and I had a script, and I managed to produce these files in required format. But it's kind of, this part is for builders, but I would like to see, and this is already working well, I think, this part, and I'm sure that you can ask bedrock about core queries. It's definitely, but I still see it like, and I'd like to see Gen AI going closer to the, let's say, business users and help them to understand like why it's happening, know how to figure out, but actually like, to answer their questions.
Lorenzo?
So I definitely I'm buying into the Gen AI. Amazon Q, like I'm cheering, right? I see it, right? Because I feel like that's what customers want, right? They want to be able to use this technology to drive business insight that helps move their business forward. And Q, right? I mean, all the points, right? Q for work, Q for connect, Q for QuickSight. I feel like it does that, right? I feel like a lot of organizations, we talk to customers and, kind of had this saying, right, where they're drowning in data, starved for information, right? And Q is going to help like part the C on that. I feel like that, making it easy to connect to all of these data sources, right? To I think 40 data sources kind of out of the gate there, and being able to ingest that enterprise data and then be able to drive value, right? So spend less time trying to figure out how to do it and spend more time actually executing things that are going to drive like real business value. And then the integration with QuickSight in particular, I definitely have a real personal interest when it comes to like business intelligence and being able to do really great things there. And I'm watching the demo and I'm watching them type like in natural language and type what you want to see in the dashboard, and then it does it, right? And then being able to like really dig into your historical data to understand kind of those like those long-term broader trends, so that it can help you really make the necessary adjustments that you need to really like move your business forward. So my immediate question, I'm like, hey, when can I get a hold of this myself? So Q definitely I think takes the cake for me.
I'd like to call out to actually Rick team release. So it's cost optimization hub. I think it's great stuff. So now you actually you do not need to make lots of API calls, figure out how to bundle this all together. It's just a couple of like all your optimization recommendations in single place and single API call, like or a couple of API calls instead of a couple of hundreds. So it's amazing move forward, and again, it shows our commitment towards helping customers to be more effective in optimizing them. So looking forward for us starting to like using these new APIs in cloud intelligence dashboards and building more stuff for customers and helping them to visualize this all. And yeah, as I mentioned, all the serverless announcements is great. And again, it's as like my primary kind of focus is building on AWS services and like cloud intelligence dashboards. The reason why we managed to build the solution is because we use everything serverless. It was super easy for customers to start, try it out, and like if they don't like it, they can like turn it off and or if they don't use it, they don't pay for it. So more serverless we have, more zero ETL processes we have. I think more builders we enable with this. More builders can actually build faster, quicker, without actually thinking about how can I make sure that then I can clean up all these resources that they won't actually like. I won't be spending money when I don't need them. So I think this is huge, and like more and more of this. When I see more and more of such features coming out, I just want to, try them and see like what else we can build on top.
Jeff, what's your pick?
All right, so this is where I get to make one team happy and N-1 teams wonder why they're not so happy. Earlier this year, I was reading a PR FAQ, which is Amazon speak for a press release and an FAQ.
Right.
I was reading one of these for another launch that happened a while ago, and I saw this little code name in there, just in a table or a sentence or something. And that's kind of interesting. And I searched our wiki and I found a contact point and said, "What's this? What are you building?" Because it was used in a very interesting way, that code name. And I messaged the team and they said, "Oh, this is what we're up to, and would you like to be part of it?" And I'm an early adopter, and whenever I hear that or see something new, I just grab onto it right away. And it turned that they were building a new piece of hardware that was basically launched. We launched it as the Amazon Workspaces thin client.
Yeah.
And not too long after my query, they said, "We're going to get you set up so you can, and we'll actually send you one." And they sent me one, and I found a keyboard actually that Stephen had given me that I'd pretty much worn out.
The Rosewell.
The Rosewell. I'd worn it out. The escape key has escaped, and I don't know where the escape key went to. But I found the keyboard. I scrounged up a monitor. I set it up, and I put it through its paces and used that for quite a bit. I'm actually a huge fan and just total user of Amazon Workspaces. So this new device really excited me. And I loved it, and I used it a bunch and blogged about it. Took some nice action pictures of it actually set up in my workspace at home. And I like it a lot for the fact of that it is this nice, usable, thin client. But when I do go back to the office, I actually have this very old Wise Zero client. It's so old, in fact, that all the people who set it up have gone on to do different things, and I don't have the credentials to get into it anymore. So they just made this networking change in our offices, and I can't actually update my thin client, my old thin client. So now this new box is ready just in time, so I can take that to the office and continue to workspace from the office. So
fantastic.
Definitely my favorite.
Is Workspace one of those? And I know it came out about last week. The
thin client was, I think, Tuesday, but that seems like a long time ago at this point.
Great, but yeah, it's one of those things that I think got lost in the sea of announcements. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to call out two features that I actually really like. The first one was the zero ETL announcement around DynamoDB and OpenSearch going together. What most people don't realize that anyone who's practically using DynamoDB day in and day out, DynamoDB is amazing as an OLTP data store. As you have tons of transactions, just use it to do all of that. It's awesome. But anytime you have a full text search or any kind of aggregation, use case, which is 100% of the time in the real world, you have to go through this massive circus of trying to figure out how you're going to replicate all of that data into OpenSearch in near real time so that it all stays in sync. And this, which is now available literally with a click, I think there are tons of developers out there who are going to thank you from the bottom of their hearts, because you guys have just made their lives incredibly simple. Two services that actually have to go together in almost every practical real world situation.
Now that customer response is actually one of my favorite things. Quite often we'll launch something new, and the customer will say, how did you read my mind? I was just about to ask for that, or I was just about at the point in my cloud journey where I really need that. And being able to deliver that new thing, it's almost like the floor materializes under their foot just as they're stepping down. And it's really cool to be able to just deliver those on a timely basis for when customers are ready to start using them.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the things I learned from you a lot was to don't hesitate to throw away codes, or even if you just spent a lot of time writing what then Amazon just came out with it, say the day after you finished, that's still a win to throw all that out, because you have to it's the maintenance going forward, right? Then you don't, Amazon's behind it now, we don't have to maintain it going forward, even if we've already duplicated that effort, right? Don't fall for that sunk cost fallacy, because there's still a huge mountain of costs in front of you. So
I think I'm going to share a tip that somebody we collaborated and we kind of worked this out. And I've used it ever since I've kind of, made the big bet on AWS. The thing that I started asking all of my developers was not about, show me why your code is really awesome and why it'll last the next 10 years. But instead, I started asking developers, show me why the code that you've just written would be really easy to delete, right? And that's the mind shift change when you're kind of writing something for the cloud, because you have to anticipate that everything has to be deleted at some point of time and replaced with a simple API call into a service. That's how you make it scalable. And if you start thinking about your code base not as, I'm writing this proprietary, piece of code that's going to last me the next decade, I think that's going to kind of hurt you in the long run. It's easier to write code that's really easy to delete. And the consequence of that, which I realized in hindsight, was that you actually need to have the best coding practices in place to be able to write code that is easy to delete.
So does that mean that you actually measure productivity in negative lines of code sometimes?
Yeah. So in fact, someone will get promoted if they delete 1 million lines of code. It's
on purpose.
On purpose. Good point. On purpose. But it's really people don't understand the overheads of actually managing, millions of lines of code. And those millions of lines of code decay faster than you can ever imagine.
And readability, yeah, it's like the simpler code, the simpler it's to read.
Correct. So if you have all your development best practices in place, the code that you write would actually be really simple to delete because you have all the right seams in the code. So for example, if you're using a messaging service, and 10 years ago, we built custom messaging services because there wasn't anything really available at enterprise scale. But now, if you actually had the right interfaces, it would be really simple to swap that out and put anything like, an SQS, a Kinesis, or any of the services, or, the Kafka services. You can just replace them seamlessly. And that's, in effect, what you want. So
what that kind of reminds me, sometimes the unheralded launches that I think are really valuable are sometimes we raise the limits substantially. Like we raised the limits on SQS and SNS FIFOs, I believe. Like by orders of magnitude, we made it easier for your Lambda functions to scale really, really quickly. And those are not quite features. Those are a lot of good engineering happens behind the scenes to make that happen. And it just makes it even better for customers to be able to use all these different services. So those are not features per se, but they're further empowering customers to do something great.
Completely.
I heard that this week too. I heard that a lot of customers have built their own right-sizing products. This has been happening for years and years and years. We launched a bunch of new capability in Compute Optimizer, so you can now tune and adjust the recommendations. Now you have visibility into things like headroom and buffer and look back, and you can adjust look back now. And I think I heard 3 different times in the last 48 hours, okay, so I can just take yours now, right? And I love hearing that because the complexity of staying on top of all of the new instance families as they come out, that is not easy.
Correct.
The performance differences of every single CPU and benchmarking them and understanding what is my utilization going to do with this newfound speed? Does that mean I can reduce core count? Does it not mean I can reduce core count? We do all that math already, but now with the customization capability, customers can tune and adjust and pick the instance families they want. So they no longer have to maintain their own right-sizing products anymore, right? And they can just use the Compute Optimizer recommendations, feed them into their optimization dashboards, and they're off to the races.
I think Rahul was chuckling because we had an event called the Cost Saving Spectacular where we did a play on ways to, how to save money and Darko, Mazarosh, and we played these bumbling developers who we just didn't know any better. And on one scene, once Steph Gooch, she told us about Cost Explorer and pricing. So we have all this idea, we could create an instance recommendation engine. And we start, getting really excited about this great project that we could do. And then we realized, wow, this is going to be really hard. Like, it's fun to kind of dream up this idea, but then to actually do what you've done and what your teams have done is a lot harder than it looks.
It's funny what you said. Reminds me, in the early days of AWS, I go out and I talk about SQS and S3 and EC2. And invariably, some smart aleck would say, that's kind of cool, but I built most of that in a weekend when I was in college. It's like, yeah, I'm sure you did.
Well, the original Dropbox post on Hacker News, right? You could replace this with batch and like 20 lines of Python, right? Do you remember that?
Yes, totally.
It's almost, a meme now.
But, I know from my perspective, like the whole, how much code can you delete? Like, to me, when you think about that in the context of AWS broadly, like that means things are working, right? Like a big secret, of course, not so big of a secret, right, is that the overwhelming majority of services and features that we deliver are based on customer feedback, right? And so when you see these things happening, to me as somebody who was a customer of AWS before I worked here, that means that the people on the other side of the conversation are listening to us, right? So the things that we're saying are not going off into the ether somewhere, right? But they're being heard, they're being taken into account, and then they're being turned into things that are going to help us save time and do the things that we want to go do better. And I love working for a company like that.
It's very similar discussion with customer, and they were looking for a way how to, at scale. They use a lot of music streams, and they told me that, look, we definitely have a lot of idle or unused streams where we provision them, and so we don't send messages to them. Is there a way how to optimize? And I was like, look, we just 3 weeks ago we added to Kudos dashboard the visualization which shows you exactly that, because other customer and technical account manager of that customer figure out how to do that, and shared with us, and we shipped it, and now we scaled it. And that customer was so impressed, exactly like very specific question, like, and here is an answer. Those moments are like, you get so much energy out of them, so much joy, when you deliver to what customers actually asking for.
Yeah, I think for the audience, I'm going to add one other thing that I think remains fairly unsaid, which is you shouldn't hesitate to ask. I think there are a lot of customers who don't think that they could approach the product teams or their TAMs or their SAs and ask for something that they need. There's, but AWS, in contrast to most other organizations on the planet, I have found to be incredibly receptive. Like your entire culture revolves around addressing what customers are asking for. I remember, I think almost 12 or 13 years ago, during one of my visits to Seattle, one of the product managers told me, he said, as a company, we don't build anything that some customer hasn't asked for, right? And for me, that was the switch that turns out like, okay, I'm going to ask for stuff. And it's been amazing. But as I talk to a lot of customers, the first question I ask is, haven't you spoken to the product manager? Haven't you asked for this feature? Because it seems like 1,000 other customers could possibly benefit from.
And coming here to reInvent and meeting the people that you need to make the ask of is,
exactly,
I think, a big part of the value.
Correct. So, if you're out there and if you haven't come to reInvent and you're somewhere else, feel free to reach out to your TAMs, to your SAs, and they will get you connected to the product teams. Everyone is very receptive because the entire product roadmap is guided by customer needs and what customers have been asking.
And not just in a kind of vague, ethereal sense. One of the fun things about reading our PR FAQs is there's often an appendix that says, here are the 50, 75, 100 customers that we spoke to, and here is a one paragraph summary of exactly what we learned that they need. Now, we can't always build every last detail of what every customer asked for, but we can use that as a starting point, and we can find out, okay, what is the common part of that we can build, and perhaps give some enabling above that so they can further customize it. But it's not just abstract, the customers in general asked for it. It's very specific. And when I read this, it's okay, this customer, this person with this job function doing this needs this particular new feature or solution.
And even more when customers ask for feature and provide a context, provide why they need it, it's super valuable, because then we can understand maybe, because we hear many requests from customers, we can come up with a bigger picture. Maybe there is a different way how to do that, because if someone would ask Henry Ford how to move faster, or like large amount of stuff, so like you need a faster horses, right? So someone needs to see bigger picture and understands that you need to do something else to get faster, to move faster. So like you need a car. So here is the same. You need, like, when you provide feedback, please share your context. Please share your why you want this feature, how you want to use it. In some cases, maybe like there is already something available. And it's like you can tackle it from other side.
I want to add to that too, from the product manager perspective, is that that context is crucial to us as we think about how to build solutions. I'm pointing to Lady and I, because like this is our day job. We love this part of our job, because a lot of times customers tell us a pain they have, and the most elegant product management is, can you solve the reason the pain existed without having to build another feature?
Right.
It's easy to just look at a backlog of features and knock them off one by one, done, and just peel off the top of your backlog. What's hard is to take a look at the problem and say, how can I make the problem go away so the customer never has it again? So where is something I can eliminate, or where is an experience that doesn't need to exist anymore, right? Like savings plan or RI management versus savings plan management, right? That's a classic example. How can we simplify the experience so you don't have to toil over it anymore? And this helps us condense tooling and condense experiences. And, Ledian's launch of Cost Optimization Hub is just a fantastic example of that, because, there's 6 different products you'd have to go to look at recommendations, and now there's one place, right? And how can we reduce feature count to increase value? Because if it's too complicated, customers won't use it, right? And so we don't want to just look at a backlog of requests. We want to hear the pain. That pain is what we turn into value.
Agreed. Follow-up question, again, to the entire panel here. You guys have been slogging away with your teams to, produce all this amazing stuff. What is the one thing that you're really proud about, with your team and the product that you'd like everyone to know about, to go and check out something that's new, different, that you feel very proud about, showcasing?
Yeah, I was start with customization subsets.
There you
go. Yeah. So I think the great things about customization hub is that it allows you for the first time to understand what the percentage of the AWS spend can be optimized. Right. So like AWS provides so many ways for you to optimize your spend, right? And like many customers just tell us like, where do I get started, right? And how much percentage of my spend should be optimized? And now with Customization Hub, it gives you a single pane of glass. So it actually boils down to a ratio. Like we can tell you can optimize 10% of your spend, and you can monitor that number going down as you implement your recommendations. And that is a really powerful moment when you actually look at it like three months later, 6 months later, right? You see the efficiency goes up, the percent of waste goes down,
right?
And you know that you're doing the right thing, right? So that's probably the biggest, the most powerful thing about customization.
Got it. Rick, before we go on to you, I'm just going to ask the audience. We are monitoring all the comments and questions live. So if you have any questions for this amazing panel, please post your questions. We'll bring it up right here and have everyone answer that. So yeah, Rick, sorry, go ahead.
So one of my launches was, or my team's launches was customization of the right sizing recommendations. We touched on that briefly. What we heard from customers and have for a long time has been, how do you generate these recommendations? Like, what's the math behind them? The question is, how can I trust these recommendations to not break my application environment, right? When you are talking to an engineering team and you say, here's some recommendations to size your resources, you're asking them to trust you in a very intimate way because their job is on the line, right?
Correct.
This is their application environment. Their bonus is tied to the uptime of this app. And then you're coming in and you're saying you sized it wrong. And their response is going to be like, who are you, right? And so you have to establish this trust with the engineers that these recommendations are what they would have done if they had the time and the energy to go size these resources themselves. And the customization features are awesome. The real trick behind it, though, is showing what the default values were for the recommendations. We had things like headroom in our recommendations from the very beginning, but customers may not have known how much headroom they had. How does it work? What's that percent number? And by exposing the settings and then the ability to adjust the settings, we're now saying, okay, we give 20% headroom in a right sizing recommendation. So now you know, okay, so what the algorithm is doing is looking at my utilization, adding 20%, and then coming up with a recommended size that I can go with. And then an engineer can go, got it. Now I see what you're doing. Now I see how you arrived at this decision, right? Same with what we call threshold. It's just percentile is what it is. But now you can set the sensitivity that Compute Optimizer has for peaks, right? And that's really important because patches and reboots and these sort of normal behaviors are a normal expected pattern of our workload's lifecycle, right? We never want to size to peak. That's not how we're elastic, right? And we've always had some amount of peak removal from our algorithm, but the question always was, what is it? Like how sensitive is this? Because we always want to provide very trustworthy and safe recommendations to our customers. We have a lot of customers. They're running all manner of applications and environments in all weird configurations and elegant and sometimes not so elegant, and the recommendations have to work for all of them. Right. So the default settings are fairly conservative and safe for that reason, right? And But now people can see that. They can say, okay, I see what you're doing here. I can see the recommendations are very safe and trustworthy. They're very obvious recommendations that make sense and that I can go implement today. And while we launch all these customization features, the real gem of the launch was that we're exposing the math and the science that all of our engineers have toiled over for years to perfect. There's been an incredible amount of machine learning analysis, data science. We have an amazing scientist team that toils over the algorithms and has for years. And now we're getting to show a little bit of our homework here. And so engineering teams can take a look at those recommendations and say, why not instead of why, right? And that's the trick behind the features we launched, is that transparency behind what we're trying to help with.
Lorenzo?
I think it was a little bit before reInvent, but we released Amazon EC2 capacity blocks for ML, and I was just really excited about that because we're talking more and more customers and trying to come up with the right strategies for GPU acquisition, and so I feel like again, right? Customers talk to us, right? They gave us feedback about what they wanted, right? How they wanted the portfolio to expand. And capacity blocks meets one of their really big feedback, which was, hey, I've got certain workloads, right? I'm trying to do ML training. I'm trying to do prototyping and experimentation, and I want to be able to do that with more elasticity, right? So I want to be able to play around with some things. I want to not necessarily have to make a ton of long commitments right now. I need to figure. I'm still figuring it out. And so capacity blocks kind of fills in that gap. Customers are able to kind of go in, kind of lay out kind of their requirement in terms of what they're going to need from GPUs in terms of the size of the cluster, how long I'm going to need it, and be able to get a single result. And that's another thing, right? It's really as simple as like booking a hotel room or a flight, right? So very, very simple kind of user interface and experience, but to get a single result of a capacity block that meets that criteria. They're able to schedule that up to 8 weeks out into the future, right? And so to be able to plan and say, hey, you know what? We want to be able to do this type of prototype and experimentation, 3 weeks from now. And now capacity blocks allows them to know that they will have that capacity where they want it, when they want it, in the in the quantity that they want it, so that they can plan for it, go out, execute, determine kind of whatever kind of baseline they're really going to want to have, and then go be able to execute. And so I felt like that was just a really great enhancement and optimization and response to our customers to deliver something that kind of further expands the portfolio and gives them more flexibility, more elasticity to go out and execute the things they want to be able to do. So capacity blocks was I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Yuri?
Yeah, from my side, I would say there are two things which I'm proud of in cloud intelligence dashboards. It's the team behind and the mechanisms which we built, where we actually now, behind the cloud intelligence dashboards, there is a framework of easy provisioning of the dashboards. So we now enabled many experts within AWS to quickly come up with their ideas and release it in the form of dashboard and release it to customers. It gives them those visualizations. So for example, we recently released sustainability proxy metric dashboard, which helps customers to track sustainability proxy metrics, which we talk about in our well-architected white paper. So we describe what they should track, and here is the dashboard how to track them. And all that happens because there is a mechanism and there is a huge team of volunteers of these ideas, and being able to bring those ideas into form of ready to be used dashboards for customers. And and another milestone for us is Flutter dashboard version 5, which is pretty big because we used to use in Athena direct query visuals for resource level recommendations, and every time you open the visual, Athena was querying data, and it was not, let's say, the best performance and not the best resources. So now we managed to achieve exactly the same level of details and visibility by being able to scale to get required level of aggregation of the data to get your core into Spice, but not the entire core, but only the things which we need for reporting, and retain the same amount of level of details for reporting. And now it enables for us to, first of all, add a lot of useful features to the Kudos dashboard itself, with ability to drill down into, from high-level trends to resource-specific details in a matter of like 2 clicks. You can understand what is changing month over month in your organization by lots of different dimensions, like by service categories, by product families, by accounts, by services. So like all these dimensions easily to track and understand trends. And in a matter of couple of clicks on QuickSight, you can see the top resources which actually generate this increase or decrease. So you can see like resource level granularity, and it enables for us a lot of room for future features, because we have a pipeline of ideas and requests what we can visualize for example, for S3 optimizations. And there we need to show things per bucket. Yes, so here is the buckets where you need to look at, where we need really resource IDs. So now we have them all in Spice and QuickSight. It's super well performing, scales to the largest our customers. And yeah, I'm so excited of what it opens for us and the future releases which we are going to have.
Sounds great. Your situation is different.
All right, so mine's different. So October 1st, we spent 3 days getting briefed on all of the potential launches for reInvent, and we somehow managed to do between 80 and 90 meetings in 3 days. We had 15-minute meetings, 3 per hour with 15-minute breaks. Took lots and lots of notes. We decided what to do. We divvied it up across the entire worldwide team of news bloggers. There's, I think, 8 of us all together. Picked what we wanted to do, and in the course of less than 2 months, we put all those blog posts together. We wrote tens of thousands of words on using services that were not just a service under development, but the UI was still under development. The messaging and the names were under development. So you're kind of floating on very thin ice sometimes. You don't know quite what works, not what it's going to be called. You're not quite sure what the final feature set would be. Despite all that, we worked really incredibly well as a global team. And then every morning I'd go to the keyboard fresh and early. There would be a whole bunch of fresh drafts that showed up overnight, and I'd read and review and give feedback before we proceeded. And it was super awesome just to be able to work with this really talented global team and just crank out all this, just I think world-class content that's just going to be really helpful to our customers.
I think we are incredibly thankful from this side of the fence. You guys have put in an incredible amount of effort. This has been an absolutely awesome reInvent. So thank you for everything. We're going to take a little bit of break. And I know, Jeff, you have a whole lot of things to kind of get to. But thank you so much, one, for coming on the show and answering a lot of these questions. We couldn't have asked for a better panel. We're going to continue after a short break with a few more questions for these guys.
No questions for me?
Well,
I've got
a question.
Okay, we'll go for one.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, we've talked about a lot of really high level stuff that about spend and optimization. If someone's on the other side, they're just starting with this whole thing, they are just wanting to start learning about the cloud. What do they do? What would be your advice for someone who's just starting out, brand new in this whole field?
Pick one service to solve a simple problem, and don't let all of the other services and features and things distract you. Just succeed at one small thing and then build from there.
Okay, so learn one thing really well and then expand out.
Even a little bit, get some level of success. Actually, thing 0, since we're all starting from 0 here, thing 0 is set up some billing alerts on your account.
Okay, great idea.
And secure your IAM.
Yeah, so for example, my account, what I did is I know that my personal AWS account always costs me about $40 a month. So I have one billing alert at $20, and I expect to get that on the 14th or the 15th of the month. And just today, I got the $40 alert, which is just on time that I'm spending my $40 for the month. So getting those set up and actually expecting that rhythm of spend and alerts, kind of getting into that habit early versus later when you get a negative surprise, I'd say is just a really great way to get started.
You remember a long time ago, I accidentally checked in I checked in a pair of keys into GitHub, and that was before they would detect that and prevent that. That was an incredible surprise very quickly. That was awful.
I really like to learn new services by having some problems that they need to solve. Or if I don't have a problem, but I want to learn service, come up with a problem which you want to solve. And then try to build something which actually solves the problems of like have something like a imaginary project or like a real project which you want to build with that and try it out. That I think is very important.
All right, should we take a quick break and then we'll come back with a bit more on all of everyone's services.
Yep.
All right, we'll
Sounds good.
Great. We will go. Let's see. Why don't we just go offline for maybe 2 minutes? That would work. All right. I will cue the transition music. Sorry, I should have had that up. All right.
Some tools just find AWS cost savings and make you do all the work. Visualizing cost opportunities is great, but that's not enough. CloudFix, on the other hand, actually delivers those savings for you. And you don't need to worry because CloudFix is AWS recommended and easy to use. It's the only tool that fixes cost-saving opportunities and not just finds. It's the easiest way to save money on AWS. It's all 100% automatic and risk-free. And the best part of all, it works non-stop. Stop overspending on AWS and click on the button to start saving now.
All right. What I'll do is I'm just gonna Yeah. All right, everyone. Welcome back. We are back from the break. Wow, that was a bit longer first than we thought. I thought it was about halfway. It turns out it's about three quarters. So we're going to do a little bit longer. Thank you. We know we all have final reInvent wrap-ups events to go to tonight. So thank you for a few extra minutes of your time. Let's see. Let's go around the room. We talk and get into the details of all the launches that we've all been involved in. Letian and Rick, we'll start with you two. And we were getting into Compute Optimizer. And
so tell us a little bit more about the hub, because that is absolutely new. It helps consolidate a lot of those insights that are, all in different places across the AWS console in different sections of different applications, from Trusted Advisor to Cost Explorer to just raw code reports to some of the Kudos dashboard, that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit about the hub, what the thinking was, and what should newbies who are discovering it for the first time look to do with it, the action.
Yeah, sure. So the hub, the concept of the hub is really like kind of inspired by the Kudos dashboard a little bit. So in Kudos dashboard, there's a Compute Optimizer dashboard, which essentially aggregates all types of recommendations in a single place, and customers say they love it, right? But they also want to understand pulling things like savings plans, RIs, and then try to understand how much they can save overall. So there's kind of a lot of customers have the problem of there's so many things I can do, right? There maybe, for example, for idle instance, you can shut it down, you can right size it, you move to Graviton, you can only do one of them, right? But you get 3 recommendations in 3 different savings. How can I incorporate that into my overall thinking, right? And plus that, you have savings plan, which means that if you terminate the idle instance, your usage will go down, so you will not get the same 100% benefit of the savings plan.
Correct.
Right? So you have to approximate how much less savings plan benefit you will get if you do all the right sizing activities, you move everything, a lot of things to Graviton, and shut down idle instances, right? So customization help really pull all these things together, and we kind of developed an algorithm to deduplicate all these savings from these overlapping recommendations, so you can get a single pane of glass to understand how much I can really save if I take all these actions, and removing all the duplicated or overlapping savings from various different places.
So tell us a little bit about that. When you have 4 different competing optimization approaches on the same resource, how do you pick? Because the customer could pick any one of them. Is it max of the discounts or max of the savings that you could get, or what's back to Rick's previous conversation about what's under the hood, the math behind under the hood? That's going to give customers more trust on this.
So first of all, we let customers choose. For example, they may choose I want to right size, I want to terminate idle instances, I don't buy RI, I buy all savings plans. So after they set the filter, then we automatically, based on the filter down result, then deduplicate, right? So we give customers full control of what are the actions they want to take. And then we tell customers, based on all your preferences, this is how much you can save.
Got it. Now, this is really exciting. I think it simplifies a lot of action taking that is really missing, because collecting all this information in one place and making sense of what you need to act on is an incredibly hard thing.
Especially if you tried to add the savings from all those different products together, it would total more than your bill, right?
Correct.
That doesn't work.
I usually say about this, if customers spend less time on figuring out, how it looks like, and learning about all this savings opportunities. So it's if they spend less time on that, if there is one place, then they will have more time to actually acting on those optimizations. So that's
true.
Well, one thing it reminded me of all these, now that we know that our preferences. So a long time ago, I was in healthcare operations, and so I was reading a lot about healthcare. And one of the big mismatches between patients and doctors is that the patients assume that the doctor is acting under their set of preferences, but they've never actually had the discussion on what are the trade-offs that you want to make, and what are the things you're willing to do or not do, what's important, what's not important. And that could lead to a doctor making, recommendations based on, an assumption. I don't know, maybe you're allergic to something and the doctor thinks, well, I want to keep eating it, and you're willing to not eat it anymore. And if you don't have that discussion, and it's the same with this, right? Now we know, okay, our preferences are being taken into account, and it adds that huge level of trust. Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah, some customers are ready for right sizing, some are not.
Yeah.
Right. Some are just doing it idle and savings plans, and that's all they can do, and that's okay. Jeff was talking about like the getting started, right? We don't expect everybody to be ready to tackle Graviton migrations and architecture and right sizing. So filtering down to just idle, just do a little bit, start there, right? It's a great starting point.
Makes total sense. Follow-up question for you, Rick. So the other amazing part of the new custom recommendations in the Compute Optimizer was that we suddenly saw another option show up in the amount of data that would be used to perform that optimization. We went from 14 days, and we had a long discussion on the live stream a month ago or so. And now we have a new option for 32 days.
We do, and I wanted so bad to tell you about it. So we hear from customers that they want a monthly amount of data in the recommendation engine because you have monthly behavior that goes on, whether that's application behavior, say, I don't know, let's pick an application, say it's payroll.
Right.
Okay. Payroll, say your company does payroll once a month. You're going to have a once a month increase in utilization while the payroll system generates, right? There's also non-application monthly utilization changes, patching, maintenance, backup jobs, reboots cause very high CPU spikes. Like when we look at the utilization data, we see like daily reboots happen, and you see 1 5-minute sample at 100% for the reboot. You see like this daily spike. So it's important that when we have an entire month of data, we catch all those, right? And so the recommendation as it goes throughout the month, right? With 14 days of data, if you do have a really strong monthly signal in your application, it's only looking at 14 days. And if it's in the 14 days where that signal is not present, then that recommendation is going to change over time.
Right.
So when you know you've got long monthly cyclical patterns, switching to a 32-day look back period on the right sizing recommendation will catch all that. It'll make the recommendation more stable over time. And we have a lot more data points in the recommendation. So we use 5-minute samples. I've done this math a million times as we've been preparing for this launch. It's like 4,032 samples. I can tell you off the top of my head, 14 days is 4,032 samples. If you go to 32 days, it's more than double the number of samples, right?
Right.
So that extra amount of data, it helps the recommendation have higher confidence, right? And you have higher confidence that the percentile value is accounting for all those spikes and peaks and everything. And you're going to get a great recommendation. Our recommendations are conservative and safe by default, right? And so if you want to get a little more aggressive to save some more money, then you can go to 32, which gets more data. And then that allows you to go a little more aggressive maybe and have a little bit less headroom or something like that to increase the savings amount. And if you do both together, it is safer and higher savings at the same time.
Yeah.
So now you can kind of tune these things to, based on your experience and expertise in your environment, you tune the recommendations to fit kind of what you're trying to do with your sizing. And then those recommendations are going to save you the most amount of money with the highest performance together.
Makes total sense. Follow-up question on that. Is there a price difference going from 14 to 32?
No, there's not a price difference. It is completely free. It's a free feature. We still do have a paid feature in Compute Optimizer. It's called Enhanced Infrastructure Metrics. Ledian built it. How long ago did you build?
Probably 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's for 93 days.
Correct.
So if you want a quarterly cyclical pattern in the recommendations, we have Enhanced Infrastructure Metrics as a feature. We put the radio button right next to the 32 days, so it's really easy to switch between 32 and 93 and everything. But everything we launched in the optimization space that we've been working on for a long time, this reInvent was free, completely free. And that's a lot of fun to launch free features. So.
And from the really cheesy play that we did as part of our talk, I can tell you that the cost for the super advanced 90-day, the data that collection is 0.00366.
0.0003366
dollars per hour, for instance, and it's a rounding off error. Basically.
So I remember when I when I worked at my previous company and I saw the announcement come out, and I'm like, 0.0, like, what is that? How do I calculate that?
It's essentially 25 cents.
It's a
divided
quarter.
by-
It's a quarter.
Yeah.
It's a quarter per month. That's
It's a
what
quarter
is.
per month.
Okay, that's a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah, it's just pull a quarter out of your pocket. I don't know if anybody carries change anymore. Pull a
Okay.
quarter out of your pocket. That's the cost for 93 days.
Perfect. One last question on this. What's it going to take to make 32 the default?
So there's still a lot of use cases where 14 is right. And,
Okay.
and we are really sensitive to changing the defaults, right? Because we vend, how many recommendations have we vended since the beginning? Billions
Wow.
of records. So changing the default is something that would cause shockwaves and ripples for our customers. We don't want to do that.
Got it.
So when we think about defaults, we don't like to move them too much. Now we do examine them and say, okay, are these the right defaults, right? Is the sensitivity right? So we make little tweaks and adjustments here and there, but nothing really big. And so the defaults, we try not to like doubling of the data, right? And then all of a sudden everybody wakes up and all the recommendations are red and everybody's hair's on fire and they're running around. So we leave the defaults where they're at, and then we offer these new options, and then we're going to watch. We're going to pay attention to the adoption metrics and how people are adopting it. How many people prefer 32 to 14 or 93, and the option for us to go to 32 is still there in the future as a default. Once we begin to understand the adoption, right? We like to launch something, listen, talk to customers, see the reception, see the value add, compare the analytics between the savings between the two, right? All of these data points we can use to make really good data-driven decisions.
Got it. Makes complete sense. That answers two of the big open questions that I had specific to this new announcement, but I absolutely love this new announcement. I think it's really neat. I've seen a lot of use cases where we've really needed to customize it or figure out, how much headroom we wanted to leave. And
so I got to tell the story though. Okay, so we had an EBC together.
Yes.
It was what, over summer?
That is summer.
It was summer.
Yeah, that is summer.
Okay, so
yes.
I got to tell the story. So I got this EBC invite, and I didn't know who it was or what it was for. I guess you get EBC invites and they're kind of anonymized a lot of times, right? And I show up, and all I know is the topic is compute optimizer. I'm like, okay. So I show up, and there's Rahul, the whole staff, Mr. Barr, everybody's there. And then they said, we have a 6-page analysis document on your product and all of its flaws. And I'm like, oh, can I have it? Can I read it? And then you guys sent it to me, and you had tried to reverse engineer the whole product. And it was awesome. What a cool to see the customer perspective, the external perspective on how the product works, its sensitivities, its gaps and things like that. What a cool opportunity for us to be self-critical and think about how we can improve the product and everything, right? That was a fun conversation because it's rare that you get such a deep analysis into what you're doing and where you can do better. And so it's gold for us. We love our product feedback.
We really appreciate you taking the time to read it and to value it. I mean, that's not everyone would say, would want that, right? To take my thing I've done and dig deep into it, rip it apart. Yeah.
What do you mean you wrote a paper on it? Yeah. No.
So let me give you a little bit of context. I'll give you a little bit of context in the background behind doing this. So, being an AWS customer now for 16 plus years, the one thing that I learned, like I shared, is it's really easy to collaborate with AWS on anything new. And like I said, the more feedback you get, the more details you get. I found that, the product teams are incredibly responsive, and I love collaborating. I think over the years, I say I have the dubious distinction of breaking every service, especially during the preview stages, and I love it. I love the fact that helps us accelerate the pace of innovation, pace of getting services out there that everyone can use, because at the end of the day, it simplifies my life. In terms of the kinds of products we build and kinds of the way we can scale up and make our products better. So it's all mutually beneficial. So a few years ago, we started this exercise because we have a centralized product management function. We started this exercise that as soon as a new feature or a new announcement or something new with AWS came up, we would actually take the trouble of really deep diving into it, understanding how it works, and then figuring out how we would apply it across all of our products, across our services and all of that, because we want to be as, we want to be the users who would be the first ones to adopt any new service that came out, because it benefits us in the long run. So one, thank you for the collaboration, and thank you for listening to, all the requests that we have. But it's been an absolute, pleasure to work with you, Rick, and your team as well. Awesome. Lorenzo,
Yes.
Question for you. So I haven't done or played this, but I heard that you put out a game called Spot Invaders. I've had my share of Space Invaders. So tell us a little bit more about Spot Invaders.
That's a great question. I definitely have to give all the credit to our broader team, and really analyzing their experience with customers at different events and things. And so we started, the concept we talk about in terms of cost optimization, particularly when it comes to containerizations, right? So leveraging the EKS, Spot, Carpenter, right, which is our replacement for cluster autoscaler. The team was looking for ways to help the message land better, right? Give more gravity to customers, right? They were understanding it, but we wanted to try to make it real, make it tangible. And so, over a weekend, folks got some ideas, came up with kind of like an MVP, and effectively, that evolved itself into Spot Invaders, which is a live chaos engineering game based on kind of the Space Invaders concept. And we kind of did some tweaks to it. So now there's kind of aliens inside of the game, and they represent nodes, in the Kubernetes cluster. And then there's kind of a whale that goes back and forth at the top there. And the customers had opportunity to come here and reinvent. We took the game that originally started off as a web-based game, right? And then we kind of revved on it and said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we took it and built a real arcade cabinet, right? And brought this thing to events. And so the team, did that. We got them built out and brought them here to reinvent this year. Customers have gotten an opportunity to, play the game. And effectively, it really, I think, does a really good opportunity or great way of grounding the concepts around, leveraging EKS, Spot, and Carpenter. Because effectively, if we can bring those three things together really effectively, we can build highly scalable, highly resilient Kubernetes clusters, right? And so one of the major points when we start talking about EC2 Spot, right, which is spare capacity, customers able to save up to 90% off on demand. One of the things that customers still have concerns about is Spot's interrupted nature, right? And so the game really, as you play the game, so as you destroy the aliens, you knock over a node, right? If you destroy the whale at the top, it triggers a Spot interruption via fault injection simulator. And customers are able to see in real time it's connected to a real EKS cluster. We have a service we replicated across 3 availability zones. And as they play the game, right, the objective is try to destroy everything you see and try to take down the service, right? And so the customers are able to have fun playing the game, see in real time, right, EKS, Carpenter, fighting them back, right? Say, hey, you know what? You knock over a node, right? We'll spin another one back. You cause a Spot interruption, we'll handle it. And we've just gotten really great feedback from customers. One, just on the idea and the concept of leveraging it, but also, we got a lot of great feedback saying, hey, you know what? We're gonna go back and get Spot a try. We're gonna go back and get Carpenter a try. So it's been very exciting in that way. And I brought Spot Invaders.
We have to see that
here
t-shirt
for everyone. We grabbed one here. So we got a nice Spot Invaders t-shirt.
Can we zoom in on this? Let's see.
Make sure we get a nice little zoom here.
You can get that in.
We'll switch to camera 3, I think.
Sorry, we have live production happening.
Doing it live, folks.
You heard a backseat driving. This is.
Oh, there we go.
Production.
Yeah.
There it is.
Oh, there's the camera.
So we got Spot Invaders t-shirts for everybody here. Everybody who actually played the game got one of these. So
amazing.
I think he's going to turn into a collector's item. I think it'll be really exciting.
It really brings home the point, right? You think, wow, I'm knocking out all these containers, and you're just really causing all this damage to the system, and they keep coming and they keep showing up.
How far did the best player get?
So the current high score champion, I want to say he scored about 340,000 points,
Okay.
which is amazing.
What does that translate to? Shutting down 340,000 spot instances over a period of time?
No, but he took down several hundred nodes.
Okay.
In playing that way, and it's great because one of the features of the game is at the top there's a service health bar, right? And so the more things you destroy, it starts to spike, and then it turns red when you get really close, right? And so people see it, and they're able to oftentimes like get it red, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to beat this thing," and then they miss for a few seconds, and then Carpenter and EKS, and it turns green again, and they're like.
Yeah.
But it really drives home like how resilient, when done in an effective manner, how resilient, EKS and Spot and Carpenter can be. And it, like I said, it was just really great, like watching folks' faces when they thought they had it, and then it's fought back on them and spun those nodes back out and kept going. So I think now the big thing is we're like, well, what do we do next, right? How do we top spot invaders? How do we continue to kind of leverage that gamification, right? To take some of these higher level concepts for our customers, ground them in something that is both fun and kind of educational, and that hopefully helps them go back to their organizations and get these technologies to try.
Awesome, Rick. What game are we going to come up with? For
I don't know.
It's interesting concept, house engineering and optimization. Because if your systems are very reliable and they have this self-healing mechanism, you can actually just implement something which will switch off the instances based on every recommendation. And then if it's not needed, it won't be healed. But if it's needed, your system will heal it up. So
I had a debate with a senior principal engineer about that a couple of nights ago at the Finops Foundation event. And he's like, "Let's just break everything." And I'm like, hold on here, right? That's not how we do things. But
if you have things like house engineering, if you break them anyway, there is just another way.
If you have amazing resilience,
exactly.
I mean, then you could do 90, the super aggressive settings, right? 90th percentile, zero headroom, size everything, see what happens.
And actually, what is survived is what you need.
I mean, that's actually a really good point because one of the things that one of the things I always talk to customers about, right, is that a spot interruption does not automatically have to equal a business operations interruption. Right?
Yeah.
It's a known. We can kind of work through it or whatnot. But kind of another side benefit, right? So obviously the cost savings, scalability, but resiliency. Because if we architected our solution in a way that it can withstand a spot interruption, then it's very likely that a non-spot interruption, you'll be better postured to handle that too, right? Which increases your overall, your total architecture resiliency, and so it's like a win-win.
Your instance can be can reboot or can restart, and you should be prepared for that anyway.
Was under good engineering. Okay, I think we are kind of at time. We could talk about all of this stuff forever, but I know that everyone has a schedule. This is the last day. There's amazing parties and get-togethers to get to. Once again, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I know we are going to be troubling all of you for more conversations because there's so much to digest. There's so much that we have to get through. And as we digest more, we're going to have tons of questions, not only on our behalf, but also the audience. So thank you again for indulging us and coming readily to every time we made a request for a conversation. Thank you so much for that, and we'll continue to do that.
Some tools just find AWS cost savings and make you do all the work. Visualizing cost opportunities is great, but that's not enough. CloudFix, on the other hand, actually delivers those savings for you. And you don't need to worry because CloudFix fixers are AWS recommended and easy to use. It's the only tool that fixes cost savings opportunities and doesn't just find them. It's the easiest way to save money on AWS. It's all 100% automatic and risk-free. And the best